Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day. All right, so lately I've been talking a lot about the general public, the average dog owner, how as dog trainers, I think we're not doing enough to educate the everyday dog owner because let's face it, that's where the big numbers lie, right? Millions of dogs out there, and any dog trainer, no matter what your ideology is, understands when you encounter these people, very few people understand even the most basic, the simplest communication system with a dog, or how to live with a dog, how to train a dog, right? How to thrive with a dog and avoid creating behavioral problems. And so I started a new private session client last weekend, more of a student because she's pretty phenomenal. I did a lot of bragging on her, but as well as she's done, she sent a bunch of questions about markers after the first day we worked together. And I thought it was really important to maybe share it because she's done so well and did so great on our first time working together. If she has these questions, well, then I know that the average person out there, the average dog owner, must really be struggling and confused. So I'm just going to go over some of the very simple questions and try to answer a few things about markers and the communication system between the trainer or the owner and the dog, okay? All dog trainers do things a little differently, right? No one really does anything exactly the same unless you're really trying to copy someone. There are many, many ways to train a dog, many, many ways to get to that same point. There is no one correct way for anything. Okay, let me repeat that. There's a lot of ways to get to that same destination in dog training. All right, so the questions that I'm about to answer as far as markers go, it's just what I do. Doesn't mean it's the only way, doesn't even mean it's the best way. It's just my way, okay? It's how I interact with the dog, how I mark behaviors, and hopefully this is for the everyday pet owner out there, okay? This isn't going to be very dog trainer related. This is very simple, basic things, but these are the things that the average dog owner don't understand and are failing with. So hopefully us dog trainers out there can really get more information to the general public. And so they kind of understand how to have a little more success with their dogs, okay? So like a lot of people, I use yes as a reward marker. I use clickers also, but not that much. And I use clickers more with puppies, okay, with my own dogs. With clients' dogs, I don't. It's all verbal markers for the most part. I use yes as a reward marker, okay? That means you did exactly what I asked you to do. I marked that moment in time that the behavior was correct with a yes, and then I follow up with a reward. That reward can be food. In the beginning, when we're teaching commands, it usually is. Once the commands are well known, then it could switch to a toy. It could be a bite for a dog that likes to do that, or a tug. It could be affection. Yes just means you did what I asked, and here comes the reward, okay? Also, very important that your dog has a release command. I work with tons of people, dog trainers, whose own dogs don't have a release command. And for me, in my opinion, if your dog doesn't know when it's released and free to be a dog and do what it wants, I think it makes it a little more difficult for the dog to understand when it is to remain in a command, if that makes sense. So it's very important for my clients that their dog understands very well a release command, meaning I no longer need your attention. You can go sniff, pee, poop, go run around, do what you want. I use free dog for that. Free dog means you're released. Go do what you want. You don't have to pay attention here anymore, okay? So the first question she asked was, should yes, the reward marker, be used as an active release only for the place command? The short answer is no. Okay, let me explain that. So what she means, guys, by an active release means when I say yes and the reward comes, the dog no longer has to remain in that command. Okay, it's an active release. It means it gets its reward. It's free to get out of that command and run around and do what it wants until I give it the next command. Okay, Not only for the place command, it's for all commands. Whatever I'm asking the dog to do, yes means here's your reward. You don't have to hold that position anymore. That was the very first question. So I hope that's simple enough to make sense. Active release means here comes the reward because you did what I asked. You don't have to stay in that command, okay? If I want the dog to stay in the command, I don't mark it with a yes, because yes means here's your reward and you're free to go. If I want it to stay in command, I don't say anything, or I may say good job, whatever. I may talk to the dog a little like that, but you don't have to say anything, okay? If you want to say good or whatever, or keep it up, whatever, that's your choice. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent, okay? The second question she asked was, I know you said not to reward every time, but can I still mark yes and not reward with food? Or should it just be no verbal marker, no food reward, because I want to build that association of yes with a food reward this early on? Don't use yes if you're not going to mark and reward, especially in the beginning, okay? Later on down the road, if you want to use it a little bit here and there just to build a little frustration and get the dog more fired up when the reward doesn't come, that's fine. I don't really do that. But in the beginning especially, yes means the reward's coming, because normally at this stage, right in the beginning, we're training the dog from the start. We're teaching the basic commands and the basic communication system. So we want to be very consistent and very clear. Okay, so I'm not going to mark anything with a yes if the reward's not coming. All right. All right, let's see the third question she asked. This may be something we go over or can go over next session, but when we go on structured walks, is correcting via leash pop for sniffing the ground even for a brief moment needed, or should it only be used for larger infringements? Great question. Structured walk means the dog has one job. That's to be at your side, walking on a loose leash, moving forward together. Okay, that's it. So there is no sniffing. Okay, do what you have to do to stop the dog from sniffing, because right away when the dog starts sniffing, now it's more in a prey drive type mode, hunting and nose to the ground, and it's natural, I understand. But we want to teach the dog it can do that when you release it, and I give dogs time to do that. I talked about, especially with Kate, the Coonhound mix, who really likes to have the nose to the ground. I provide time for her to do that. But on the structured walks, there's no sniffing, there's no peeing, there's no poop. You're out my side until I find a spot that I want you to go pee and poop and be a dog. I go to that spot, I wait. When you're relaxed, I say free dog, and now at the end of the line, the dog can go do whatever it wants, okay, until it's time to get back to the walk, all right? So number 4 is, how do I accurately and effectively reward for walking in the correct position in a heel? I've taught her a semi-okay loose leash heel by doing the leg twist you do and luring her into position, but it could be cleaned up. Okay, I don't reward on the walk for the correct position, all right? I don't lure it either. I don't use food or rewards at all when I'm teaching a dog to walk. I use a leash and a flat collar, and I want the dog to learn just like that, to be at my side. No luring, no food, no nothing. That's just the way I do it. Are you a bad person or doing something wrong if you decide to use rewards and food? No, but I never have, and that's something that, I can teach just about any dog really fast. And I think sometimes, I use food. I use food a lot to teach new behaviors and everything. But I kind of see that, and this is just my way of thinking, I see walking nicely on a loose leash not as a command, or a stupid human trick, like sit, down, place, those things, those positions that we're teaching the dog to do. I see walking with you kind of differently, but that's just me. I see it more as a behavioral thing, and, I don't know if I ever do use rewards and stuff like that when it comes to behavior, if that makes sense, okay? Let me see. Let's see. Okay. Couple more questions here. Let's see. Active release, yes, would be saying it from a distance and she comes to get the reward, versus non-active release would be saying it directly next to her and giving her a reward. Okay, so there's a little confusion there. So what she's asking is, if let's say the dog is in a place command or in a down away from you and you're far away and you say yes, that dog is released, it's an active release and comes to you to get the reward. That's correct, right? But what she's asking is, let's say the dog's in a down or a sit or a place and you're right next to the dog and you say yes. Let me read that again. Is that a non-active release? No, not at all. Not at all. Let me go a little further here and break it down. When the dog is away from me and we're working on positions away from me, down, sit, place, whatever it is, okay, stand, doesn't matter. I reward both ways. Sometimes I mark it and the dog comes to me to get the reward. Other times I go to the dog and then mark it and reward. I want the dog to truly understand what the command means. So the problem is, if you're always saying yes or using your marker when the dog's away from you, if the dog always has to come to you to get the reward, then that tends to create a little instability in the dog staying in position when it's a distance. Because where does it find its best, where does it receive what it wants the most? Next to you. So dogs will tend to break position to come to you to get what it wants. So I teach it both ways. Sometimes the dog goes to me, sometimes I go to it. I don't want the dog ever really anticipating or knowing where that reward is going to come from, or thinking it has to break position to come to me. Okay, so I think there was a little confusion there. Or are yes markers active releases, and the difference between break and yes is the duration of the command? Okay, great question. There's going to be times we're not rewarding the dog. So that's why a good release command is so important, all right? So again, example, if your dog is in a sit or a down or a place or whatever position you have, and you're working on those positions and you're working on duration, keeping the dog there longer, and you're moving away, you're going to it, you're going away, going to it. Now, what you do to release that dog when it's not going to be marked and rewarded, because you're just not going to mark and reward dogs forever, okay? That's where the release command comes in. Free dog. Now the dog breaks out of position till the next position. All right. So I hope that makes a little sense. So if you go back and look at when we do, the e-collar work, the e-collar conditioning, everyone thinks that intermittent phase is just for e-collar work, but it's not. It's not. It's just a very basic communication system where the dog understands to work whether there's rewards or not, whether there's tools or not. Remember the 4 combinations? So when it comes to the e-collar, the 4 combinations are: we use the low-level stimulation with the command and give a reward. So it's e-collar with reward. We do the same thing with the command. We use the low-level stimulation from the e-collar without a reward. That means the dog holds the position. For example, we're conditioning the dog to the e-collar. Low-level stimulation comes on, right? Continuous. We call the dog, Rex, here. As soon as the dog comes our way, we release, we say yes, and when the dog gets to us, it gets the reward. Now, when we do it without a reward, low-level stimulation, Rex, come here. The dog comes to us, turns off the low-level stimulation, and the dog's hanging around next to us, looking like, hey, am I going to get the reward? And we just wait. We wait, we wait, we wait. No reward, we don't mark with a yes. We say free dog. Now the dog's free to move around again, right? Then we do the same thing without the e-collar. Rex, come here. Dog comes to come our way. Yes, we mark and reward. There's no e-collar involved, but we're marking and rewarding. The 4th combination, no e-collar, no reward. Rex, come. Dog comes to us, and we just wait. Dog gets next to us, and you wait, right? If the dog goes to move away, here, we bring it back. Wasn't released. Those are the 4 combinations. Then, when we think the duration is long enough, free dog. That's the way I do things, but it's just very simple and very clear to the dog. There's really no confusion there once the dog. I'm not using a ton of words. I'm using a release command, and I'm using yes to mark behaviors, and I keep it very, very simple for the dog. I think that might have been the last question. But when it comes to markers, guys, or even commands, a lot of people, everyday pet owners, ask, well, what word do you use for this? Or what command do you use for this? Guys, it doesn't matter. The dogs don't care about the words, okay? They don't care. As long as you're consistent, you could use, booger for a recall, Rex, booger, and you teach him to come to you. Well, booger becomes the recall, it doesn't matter. As long as you're consistent in communicating the information to the dog with the same commands and words and markers, they're going to learn it. They're going to get it. They're going to understand it. Okay? But you have to learn to deliver the information clearly. People struggle with timing. When I work with clients, it's amazing how many clients struggle with not reaching for food rewards before they mark or at the same time as they mark. And I tell people, you have to separate that stuff. Make it very clear for the dog, Think of them as learning in small pictures. So if you're doing this, you're moving for the food and then saying yes, what becomes the marker? This becomes the marker. They're always going to pick up on the visual cue before the verbal cue, okay? That's why I do like to use hand signals in the beginning, but I like to give the command first, okay? Sit, and then the hand signal. Yes, then the reward, okay? Because eventually, you want the dog responding to only the verbal command. Or if the dog's out and about, if there's a train coming by or trucks and you're in traffic and the dog can't hear, you want him to understand hand signals too. That's, again, for everyday average dog owners. If you're someone that, competes at a high level, then you're not using any kind of hand signals, but you're also not watching this. You understand what I'm saying? So the information that I put out is very simple, very basic, and it's geared towards helping everyday dog owners. Whether it has to do with markers or rewards or play or e-collars, everything I put out there, I tried to make very simple, and it's geared towards everyday dog owners. Because everyday dog owners are the ones that really struggle and they know nothing. And so they tend to do everything wrong. And when they do everything wrong, it creates a lot of behavioral problems. And when you have people creating a ton of behavioral problems, you get a ton of dogs going to the shelters and to the humane societies. And it's just that simple. So the more information an average dog owner understands, the better everyone is for it, especially the dogs. And when it comes down to it, the only thing that matters is doing things. All of us, everyone in the training world, no matter what your ideology is, to help the dogs. That's it. That is it. So that's why I put out the stuff I do. It's simple, it's basic, but the average dog owner can look at it or read it and have some kind of ability to apply it and make their dog a little bit better, okay? So that's just a small thing on markers. I do have videos out there, a couple on YouTube, that are very simple in showing you what a dog, the very basic. There's one with a Bouvier that I did. It's probably a half hour long and the sound gets a little bad towards the end, but I broke it down very simple, not just explaining the marker system and the communication and how the dog sees things, but I showed you with the dog and so people kind of understand. And I got so many messages from that one video in particular from everyday dog owners because it made more sense to them, okay? And people are very visual. They like to see things. So we could put it in writing and tell them about it all day long, but it's best that they see it. And even better if you could be hands-on and show them, okay? So I hope this clears up a little bit of information about markers. Okay. The one thing I didn't mention is no markers or negative markers. Okay. And so real quickly, if I'm teaching a dog something and the dog's getting it wrong, I may say nothing at all and wait. If the dog is active and trying to figure it out, I may just wait. Or if the dog does something I don't want or don't like, even in the beginning, I may just say, means I don't like that. Okay, means wrong answer. Okay, if the dog does something I really don't like and it's more of a behavior, I just may use a no. No. That means I really don't like that, very simple. And the way you use your tone and present yourself to the dog is very important. All right. So if I have a dog with no confidence and is down in the dumps, I may be a little more upbeat. I may act like an idiot a little bit to try to bring the dog up. Okay. Try to get the dog a little excited, a little emotional about things. You know what I mean? If I have a dog that's just out out there, crazy, lunatic, then I'm going to bring myself down when it comes to the markers and the communication and the reward system. Okay. So you have to understand what kind of dog you're dealing with and kind of play it along with what you have in front of you. That's it. So I hope that helps. It's a little bit long, but I see a lot of trainers out there sending a lot of confusing messages to the dogs. And so if professional dog trainers are a little unclear to the dog, imagine once they translate that to a client and then that client tries to translate that to the dog. It really creates a lot of issues. And then, the final results maybe aren't exactly what you hoped for. And so focus on the basics, the simplicity, perfect the basics. Because if you perfect the basics in all situations, that becomes the advanced, at least in my opinion, okay? So I hope this helps. Everyone have a great day. Peace.